It was a Tuesday morning, July 14th, 1998. The small town of Corumba de Goiás, located 110 kilometers from Goiânia, was living its usual quiet routine when Antonio Carlos Mendonça, 47, and his wife Marinalva Pereira Mendonça, 43, left home for the last time. The couple, owners of a small market in the town's central area, were known for their punctuality and dedication to work. That morning, however, something disrupted their 15-year routine. The sky was clear, with a mild temperature typical of the dry winter in Brazil's Midwest. When Antonio and Marinalva left their home on Rua das Acacias, Jardim Primavera neighborhood, around 6:15 a.m. According to reports from neighbors, the couple left in their 1995 green Fiat Uno, heading to a farm they had recently bought, about 25 kilometers from the town, in the region known as Serra dos Pireneus. According to a statement from Josefa Almeida, an employee at the market for over a decade, Antonio had mentioned the day before that he needed to check a problem with the water pump of the cistern on their rural property. He told me he would be back before 10 a.m. to open the market, as he always did. Mr. Antonio was never late. He was a man of his word. Josefa told the police when the disappearance was reported. The couple had 3 children. Marcelo, 24, who lived in Goiânia and was studying engineering. Carla, 21, who worked with her parents at the market. And Rodrigo, 17, a high school student in Corumba. It was Carla who first realized something was wrong when she arrived at the market at 8 a.m. and found the store still closed. At 10:30 a.m., with no news of her parents and unable to reach them, cell phones were rare at the time, especially in small towns. Carla called her older brother in Goiânia. Concerned, Marcelo suggested that his sister check if their parents had encountered any issues at the farm. Carla then asked João Batista, a trusted employee of the market, to accompany her to the family farm. Upon arriving at the farm around noon, they found neither the Mendonças' Fiat Uno nor any sign of the couple. The house was locked. Tools stored in the small shed were untouched, and the newly constructed cistern had its concrete cover securely sealed, exactly as it had been left weeks earlier by the workers who had done the job. The farm's water supply system had been recently installed, part of the couple's plans to transform the property into their country home. The farm, purchased with years of savings, represented the realization of a dream for Antonio and Marinalva, who planned to retire there in a few years. At 2 p.m. that same day, Carla and João Batista returned to the town and reported the disappearance to the Corumba de Goiás military police. The official police report, Case No. 205, 1998, registered the disappearance of Antonio Carlos and Marinalva Mendonça, launching an investigation that would remain unsolved for nearly 3 decades. The population of Corumba was shocked. Nothing like this had ever happened in our town, recalls Maria do Socorro, 78, a neighbor of the Mendonças at the time. They were a well-liked family with no known enemies. No one could understand how a whole couple could disappear just like that without leaving a trace. The detective in charge of the case, Dr. Claudio Montero, mobilized all available police forces in the small town. In the first 48 hours, intensive searches were carried out on the farm, nearby rural roads, and across the Serra dos Pireneus region. Helicopters from the Goiás military police flew over the area for 3 consecutive days. The couple's car was not found, nor was there any sign where they could have gone. The investigation into the disappearance of Antonio Carlos and Marinalva Mendonça initially followed the line of a possible kidnapping. The couple was known for their stable financial situation, being the owners of Mendonça and Familia, one of the most traditional markets in the small town of Corumba de Goiás. However, no ransom was received in the days and weeks that followed. explained Detective Claudio Montero in a press conference held a month after the disappearance. We investigated every detail of their lives, their bank accounts, business relationships, potential disputes, he continued. We found nothing to suggest a voluntary disappearance or any underlying problems. In August 1998, the Goiás Civil Police discovered that 15,000 reals had been withdrawn from the couple's bank account 2 days before their disappearance. This amount, equivalent to approximately 150 minimum wages at the time, raised suspicions that the couple might have planned to escape. However, their children vehemently rejected this theory. My parents would never abandon the family and the business they worked so hard to build, said Marcelo Mendonça in a statement. That money was for paying for materials for the farm renovation. My father mentioned this to the entire family the week before. Investigations also turned toward Jeronimo Santos, a neighboring farmer, with whom Antonio had reportedly had disagreements about the property boundaries. Witnesses said that, weeks before the disappearance, the two had a heated argument in the central square of Corumba. In his testimony, Jeronimo denied any involvement. We had our differences, as any neighbors might, but we resolved everything through conversation. In fact, he invited me to a barbecue at the new farm once the construction was finished. He sighed. Jeronimo's alibi was confirmed. On the day of the disappearance, he was in Annapolis for a medical appointment, a fact supported by hospital records and witnesses. A promising lead emerged in September 1998 when a green Fiat Uno, similar to the Mendonças, was spotted in Cristalina, a town in Goiás about 150 kilometers from Corumba. The police investigated the tip, but it turned out to be a different vehicle. By the end of 1998, the investigation began to lose momentum. Detective Claudio Montero was transferred to Goiânia, and the case was handed over to Detective Arnaldo Vasconcelos. Under new leadership, the police began to consider the possibility that the couple had been victims of a robbery on the rural road leading to the farm, which was known to be isolated and without police patrols. There had been reports of robberies in that region, mostly involving vehicles that were stolen and taken to Paraguay or Bolivia, explained Vasconcelos in a report dated March 1999. The couple may have reacted, and the assailants, in panic or inexperience, ended up committing a more serious crime. This theory gained traction when, in April 1999, a gang specializing in car thefts was dismantled in Louisiana. Among those detained, Marcos Antonio Silveira, known as Marcao, confessed to several robberies in the region, including near Corumba. The Goiás, when specifically questioned about the Mendonça couple, Marcao denied involvement. I never targeted older people, only empty cars, or ones owned by rich kids, he stated in his testimony. Despite this, the police kept the investigation focused on the possibility of a robbery followed by murder. In December 1999, after 17 months of fruitless searches, the Mendonça case was officially classified as unsolved and transferred to the town Missing Persons Department in Goiânia, where it joined hundreds of other similar cases. Years passed, but the Mendonça family did not give up. Every year, on the anniversary of their disappearance, the children organized walks through the streets of Corumba de Goiás, distributed flyers with their parents' photos, and kept alive the hope of finding them. It felt like time had stopped for us, recalled Carla Mendonça in an interview with the newspaper O Popular in 2008 on the 10th anniversary of the disappearance. We couldn't hold a funeral or grieve because there was always that hope that they might still be alive somewhere. The investigation gained new momentum in 2005 when the National Missing Persons Program was established. The Mendonça case was revisited by a specialized team from the federal police who conducted new interviews and reviewed all the evidence collected years earlier. This reinvestigation brought to light a seemingly overlooked detail. In the weeks prior to their disappearance, Antonio had mentioned to friends that he was concerned about the safety of the new cistern. According to Jose Pereira, a longtime friend, Antonio had commented that the concrete lid of the cistern hadn't been properly fixed and that he intended to redo it. He told me, "Z, that lid didn't go well. I'll have to break it and make a new one before someone falls in," Jose testified to the federal police. However, this information was not enough to change the course of the investigation, as the cistern had been checked on the day of the disappearance and appeared to be intact. In 2010, with the advancement of forensic technologies, the Goiás Scientific, police attempted to conduct a digital reconstruction of the case, using computer simulations of the possible routes the couple could have taken that July morning in 1998. The results, however, only confirmed what was already known. There was no concrete evidence of what really happened to Antonio and Marinalva Mendonça. The case of the Mendoncas could have remained just another of many unsolved mysteries in Brazil, were it not for an unexpected event. In March 2023, nearly 25 years after their disappearance, the farm, which had remained in the family's possession even after so many years, was finally sold to a businessman from Brasilia, Paulo Roberto Gomes, who planned to turn the property into a rural inn. On the morning of March 17, 2023, workers hired by Paulo Roberto began work to build a new house on the property. The project involved demolishing the old structures, including the cistern built by the Mendoncas in 1998, which had never been used. Claudine Ferreira, the operator of the hydraulic excavator, was removing the old concrete lid from the cistern when he noticed something unusual. When the machine broke the concrete, I realized there was something different down there. It looked like the cistern didn't have water, but there was some strange material at the bottom, he later reported. Intrigued, Claudine turned off the machine and, along with other workers, approached to check it out. What they found left them in shock. At the bottom of the cistern, partially preserved by the dry and sealed environment, were two bodies in an advanced state of decomposition. It was a moment of terror. "I never imagined we'd find something like this," said Adamar Santos, another worker present at the moment of discovery. "We immediately called the supervisor, who notified the police. The Goiás Civil Police arrived at the scene around 11 a.m. that same day. The technical team, led by Dr. Roberto Quiroz, began the process of removing and identifying the bodies. Initial analysis indicated that the bodies were of a man and a woman, both wearing clothing typical of the late 1990s. The bodies were positioned in a way that suggested they had fallen from above, possibly from the cistern's opening. Dr. Quiroz explained at a press conference held days later. The dry and sealed environment of the cistern, which had never received water, created conditions for the partial preservation of the remains, which was crucial for our investigation. Among the belongings found with the bodies were a wallet with documents in the name of Antonio Carlos Mendonça and a gold chain with a heart-shaped pendant, which, according to the children, belonged to Marinalva. These items were the first concrete evidence that the bodies found were those of the couple, who had disappeared in 1998. DNA tests performed on samples taken from their children confirmed the identities of the remains 1 week after the discovery. The 25-year-old mystery had been partially solved. Antonio and Marinalva had never left Corumbá de Goiás. They had been buried the whole time at the bottom of the cistern on their own farm. The question that remained unanswered was, how did the couple end up at the bottom of the cistern? The necropsy, conducted by Dr. Larissa Campos of the Forensic Institute of Goiânia, revealed crucial details. Both bodies had multiple fractures, consistent with a fall from a significant height. Antonio's skull had a fracture in the occipital region, which could have been caused by a blunt object before the fall. The evidence suggests that Antonio may have been struck at the back of his head before falling into the cistern, while Marinalva only had injuries consistent with a fall, explained Dr. Compass. However, due to the preservation of the bodies and the time that had passed, we cannot say with absolute certainty the exact sequence of events. An intriguing detail found in the cistern was an improvised ladder made of wooden pieces and rope, which appeared to have been assembled from inside the structure. This discovery led investigators to formulate a new theory about what could have happened on that July morning in 1998. Our current hypothesis is that Antonio went to check the cistern, as he had mentioned he would, and suffered some kind of accident, possibly being hit on the head by an object or by the unstable concrete. Lid, explained Delegate Leonardo Barreto, responsible for the new investigation. Marinalva, trying to help her husband, also fell into the cistern. Chile, leave a comment. Never give up on the truth if you believe that all missing people deserve to be found. With the new evidence, the Goiás Civil Police officially reopened a case, now investigating it as an accidental death or possible homicide. One crucial question remained. If the couple had fallen into the cistern, why was their car never found? This question was answered in April 2023, when a joint operation by the civil and military police, based on an anonymous tip, located the remains of a green Fiat Uno in a dense forest area, approximately 5 kilometers from the Mendonça farm. The vehicle was completely deteriorated, but the license plate and chassis number confirmed it was the car that had gone missing in 1998. The vehicle was in a difficult-to-access area, covered by vegetation that had grown around it over the last few decades, explained Lieutenant Colonel Rodrigo Pimentel, who coordinated the operation. It's understandable that it wasn't found during the searches conducted at the time of the disappearance. The location of the car raised new questions. If the couple had died in the cistern, who had taken the vehicle to that remote location? The answer came from a surprising testimony. Ernesto Silveira, a former employee of the neighboring farm, who was just 17 years old at the time of the disappearance, voluntarily approached the police after seeing news about the discovery of the bodies. In an emotional testimony, he confessed to having found the Mendonça car parked near the entrance of the farm that July morning in 1998. I was passing by on my bicycle when I saw the car parked with the keys in the ignition. I looked around and didn't see anyone. I was a foolish teenager and saw an opportunity to take the car for a ride, Ernesto recounted. I took the vehicle without thinking about the consequences, and after a few hours, I panicked. I ended up abandoning the car in that forested area and never returned there. Ernesto stated that he had no idea what had happened to the couple, and when he learned of their disappearance, he was too terrified to come forward to the authorities. I lived with this weight on my conscience for 25 years. I didn't kill anyone, but I know that my actions hindered the investigation and caused additional suffering to the family. I'm here to take responsibility, he said. After a detailed analysis of all the evidence, the civil police presented their official conclusion. Antonio Carlos Mendonça went to the farm to check the newly built cistern. The concrete lid, which had not been properly secured, gave way when he leaned on it, causing him to fall. Marinalva, attempting to help her husband, also fell inside the structure. The physical evidence and the testimonies collected indicate that it was a tragic accident, concluded Delegate Leonardo Barreto. The couple was trapped in the cistern with no way to escape, as the broken concrete lid partially blocked the exit. The improvised ladder found shows that there was an attempt to escape, but unfortunately without success. As for the sealed lid, found in 1998 when Carla and João Batista went to the farm to search for the couple, the investigation concluded that it was a misperception. The lid was broken, but part of it had fallen in such a way that it appeared to be intact when viewed from a distance, explained forensic expert Fernando Miralles. Without a detailed inspection, which was not conducted at the time, it was impossible to notice that there was a fracture. In June 2023, almost 25 years after the disappearance, Antonio Carlos and Marinalva Mendonça received a dignified funeral, with the presence of family, friends, and hundreds of residents of Corumbá de Goiás. The town, which had never forgotten the mystery of the Mendonça couple, was finally able to bring closure to this story that marked generations. "It's both a relief and a pain at the same time," said Marcelo Mendonça during the funeral. "On the one hand, we finally know what happened, and we can say goodbye with dignity. On the other hand, it's devastating to know that they were so close all this time and could have been found sooner if the cistern had been checked more thoroughly." Although the Mendonça case was solved, it left important lessons for missing person investigations in Brazil. In September 2023, the Goiás State Public Security Secretariat implemented the Mendonça Protocol, which establishes guidelines for more thorough investigations on properties related to missing persons, including a use of technologies such as drones and thermal cameras. This case taught us that sometimes the answer is literally under our feet, reflected the Public Security Secretary in a statement to the press. The suffering of the Mendonça family was not in vain. If we can use this experience to prevent other families from going through the same thing. The Mendonça farm, now owned by Paulo Roberto Gomes, was transformed not only into a rural inn, as initially planned, but also into a memorial. A small chapel was erected near the location where the old cistern once stood, with a plaque briefly recounting the couple's story and ending with the words, "Antonio and Marinalva Mendonça, 1951 to 1998, never ceased to be at home." For the couple's children, the resolution of the case brought the possibility of finally moving forward. Carla, who had kept the family market running all these years, shared, "For 25 years, we lived in limbo, unable to truly say goodbye. Now, even with all the pain of the confirmation, we can finally start healing the wounds that have been open for so long." The story of the Mendonças, now part of the collective memory of Corumbá de Goiás in Brazil, serves as a reminder of the importance of persistence in the search for truth, of the familial love that transcends time, and of the fragility of life, which can change completely in the blink of an eye. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that forever affect families. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until the end, so I can get to know you and see who truly cares about the search for truth." Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends and family who are also interested in real stories that make us reflect on the value of life and truth.